I'm always inspired when I hear Alan speak, and I just think to myself as I heard him talk what it would have been like to have him as our senator this year. So, but in terms of the book and the response, thank you very much. And hello, thank you. This is a little better. Okay. And you know, in terms of some of the comments, in terms of the feeling about philanthropy, I'm actually very optimistic about where philanthropy is in this scenario. I see, you know, I've worked in 3 different community foundations, small, medium, and large, and you know, what I've seen over the years, I've seen philanthropy begin to evolve, where, you know, the voice of the community is really, really critical. You know, we don't operate, we are a community foundation, and so as a community foundation, we have various vehicles where we engage the community in conversations. We may not, some of us may not be engaging them enough, but for the most part, I believe that consistently community foundations play that role with really trying to engage the community. If you look inside our organizations overall, and if we're not all doing this, doesn't care whether you're a community foundation or a nonprofit organization, inside the organization, you know, the people who are representative of the community and representative and understanding all the various issues that are there. Externally, you know, making sure that you're reaching out in the community and educating people on what the issues are and ways that they can get involved in addressing the challenges. And then I think, you know, being some of what I heard talked about earlier by both Alan and also Kelly is I do think that while we try to do our best with trying to, you know, address some of the particular issues that are out there, sometimes it does take the shape of charity, and charity does has its place. But I think that every single day, I just can remember years and years, every board meeting that I've ever been at in philanthropy, where it's not, a board member will say, what difference are we making in the community? And what are the ways that we can do a much better job? And I think that, you know, we ultimately have to then reach out and work in the communities to try to help make that happen. But I think that, you know, being able to do what's right in terms of being able to support really good things, but at the same time period being able to really engage the community and be aggressive where necessary to try to drive change. And so, you know, we have our role just like the nonprofit community, but I'm very optimistic for the role philanthropy is playing.
Great, thank you. Patricia, you want to add on? Yeah, sure.
So I'm from the Mass Alliance on Teen Pregnancy. We are a 501c3, and we are a policy and advocacy organization. The work that we do is specifically looking at what are the practices and policies that impact young people in terms of sexual health and in terms of pregnant and parenting teens and the things that they need. And to build off of what Kelly's talking about, thank goodness there are many foundations, et cetera, that do support that policy and advocacy. I'm glad to see the Himes Foundation, the United Way are both funders of the Alliance on Teen Pregnancy. We don't serve young people directly. We work to engage them in the public policy process. So it can work within the context of your organization, and I'm glad that the sector recognizes the need for that kind of public policy. And I have to say, I see that growing, moving in the direction of more and more foundations that are interested in looking at public policy and the role that public policy and advocacy can play in what happens to young people in communities and what happens in terms of that social change vision. And that I would ask that there be more, I was so glad to hear Alan use the term movement, because when I was thinking about preparing for this and thinking about what I had to offer, what I see, at least in the young people who we're connected to through our work, is a real yearning for being part of a movement. Whether they are, you know, in the trenches doing the tutoring or at Teach for America or whatever the direct role they're playing, if they can become part of a movement, I think we'll keep them in the sector. If what they do is just what they do, I think that's where we see people leave and go off, somewhere else where they can make a lot more money probably. But that yearning for being part of a movement, if foundations can start to think about how can I support the building of a movement, then I think our sector gets so much stronger in that regard.
Great, thank you. I was going to pose the next question to Patricia, which you might have answered. So I'm going to go to David next, and then you may respond, which is this whole issue of engaging the broader community in advocacy. And you talked, of course, about the power of it and the importance of it. There are also challenges to foundations getting involved in that, and there are undoubtedly some challenges and risks in the actual engagement of the community. As a sort of corporate, even though the Tufts Health Plan is a nonprofit, but as a corporate perspective foundation focused on healthy aging, but also getting involved in the policy debate a little bit. David, what would be your thoughts in terms of engaging the broader community?
So everybody can hear me okay? So the engagement question is somewhat challenging, but also provides a great deal of opportunity. When you are focused on an area, as we are with healthy aging, you like to think that you become the expert, so you know what the agenda should be, and you're going to tell folks how the world can be a better place. And we have a great staff of people who do have that level of knowledge, but we don't have a monopoly on knowledge, right? And it is not for us, or I think for any philanthropic organization, to dictate what the agenda should be. So we've taken really a four-step approach to it. And those four steps would be: 1, educate; 2, coordinate; 3, motivate; and then 4, advocate. And let me take them each sort of step by step. By way of example, by what we do. So our focus area is healthy aging, and we've done a large-scale educational campaign, mostly through a few widely attended conferences, to educate the folks on what are the issues with aging in Massachusetts. What are the barriers? What are the better models? Held these conferences, and then we said that's not enough. We need to coordinate a group of real leaders from around the state, people from thought leaders, from academic institutions, from government, from community service organizations. Let's get them all in a room, create what we called our steering committee, to help us sort of identify and hone in on how we can make things better. That was the coordinating function. Then the next step was to try to motivate a broader range of folks. So the steering committee came up with an agenda, but then we need people working on that agenda. How do we get more people involved? So we created subcommittees. We held another conference, and really this was a rah-rah conference. It's please join us, please help us. So now we have that motivation piece. By the end of this year, I hope we have a 3-pronged, focused group of project plans that are financially viable, that are politically viable, and that can really make a difference, that we haven't set, the foundation hasn't set, nor is our partner. We've been working with the folks at the Heller School and the Mass Health Policy Forum on this. We haven't set this agenda, but a very broad spectrum of folks have set the agenda, and then it's our job to advocate. And we are uniquely positioned to do that. You know, we have a significant role in the Commonwealth. We have connections at all levels of government and industry and education, et cetera. So hopefully we can help move the agenda forward that others have helped to define.
Great, thank you, David. I'm sure several of you have things to add in terms of how to engage the public more in advocacy. Patricia, you want to?
Yeah, I'll be short, which is to say, I mean, we are at a time when the tools we have available to us for that engagement have never been richer. And in particular in our organization, our primary way in the past in engaging young people was through the provider organizations that were our network. So people providing adolescent sexual health services or organizations that were working to support pregnant and parenting teens. That's how we got to youth, through them. What we can do now as a policy organization is to reach young people directly without the mediation, unless we need it, of the community organizations that are part of that advocacy, or along with that mobilization of the community organizations. And we're just learning how to use those tools effectively, whether it be through Facebook or through the blog that we've launched, the pushback.org.